Jia Wen Ge first put them down with drugs, then strangled them to death, then cut out their hearts and livers with knives, stir-fry them with green peppers, and served them with wine. Hello everyone, I'm Min. Welcome to my channel. Today's story is gonna be a really long one. It's a serial killer team taking lives of 42 people in China. Let me start from a letter. A letter a female death row inmate wrote to her sister. Today I picked up the pen to write the first and last letter to you and my sisters in my life. As I am unable to stay calm now with my hands shaking, I cannot write as usual. I will write whatever comes to my mind. My dearest eldest sister, thinking of you and my other sisters is unbearably painful. Recalling the sense of us 4 siblings together is like a movie playing before my eyes. The past is too painful to look back. Thinking back to my childhood, you loved and cared for me like a mother, dedicating yourself in silence to raise me into adulthood, hoping to see me grow up and live a good life one day. You showered me with your love, and your place in my heart is beyond compare. Despite your fragile health, you supported the whole family through hard times with selfless devotion. You are and always will be my dearest sister, as loving as a mother, the most cherished in my heart. Dearest sister, ashamed of the sorrow I brought, I can no longer face you with a clear conscience. Never did I imagine I would see my sisters again or hear your anguished cries in court. The painful memory hurts me endlessly. You know, this is too sad for me. Never did I think that my sister still stood by me, the sinful sister, through all these years. Your unyielding love and forgiveness move me beyond words. I deeply regret not heeding my elder sister's advice and going down the wrong path into a life of crime, becoming an irredeemable sinner, and betraying my sister's loving kindness in raising me. Sister, you must despise me. Please reproach me severely. Only then will my remorseful heart find solace. Dearest sister, a year ago after we parted, I never imagined that in this life I would see you in this way again. Life is like a dream. At times it is as colorful as the sea, as elusive as a heavenly palace, and one can only find homes by ascending to heaven and descending to earth. You never could have imagined that your innocent and spirited little sister would turn into a hated murderess in the blink of an eye. To be truthful, I am not as inhumanly murderous and cannibalistic as rumors has it, willingly manipulating people to kill. I have been entangled by a group of demons and unable to escape. There are many reasons why I have ended up like this today. One reason you know is that I have been unhappy in my marriage, with many unspeakable secrets and nowhere to speak of them. I lost confidence in life and became disheartened. At a moment of confusion, I left home. By the time I regretted, it was too late, and I was stuck in a quagmire, unable to get out. Now I can only hate myself, blame myself, hate that I was too weak and too naive, unable to see the dark side of the world. I fault myself for ignorance of the law, for believing the lies of bad people, and being deceived into embarking on the path of crime. Dear sister, you could never have imagined that your little sister was tortured to death in the devil's dungeon. They experimented on me with potions they concocted. Spraying them in my face knocked me out. After that, they raped me and took many nude photos of me. Then they chained my hands and feet and threw me into the cellar of their house. It was full of disease. He wanted to kill me. He wanted to kill me and asked if I liked him. I said I didn't. He said, okay, I'll kill you. Violently. I said, go ahead and kill me if you want. I don't want to live anyway. Hearing this, he gave up the idea of killing me. After that, he gave me sleeping pills and tore off a sheet to let me sleep on the dead bodies. Then he sealed the cellar entrance and placed a water tank on top of it to weigh it down before leaving. I didn't know how long it was, but due to lack of oxygen in the cellar and the stench of decaying corpses, I woke up unconsciously. Upon waking up, the desire to survive compelled me. I didn't know what strength supported me, allowing me to push open the cellar cover and crawl out of the gate of hell. At that time, my face, hands, and feet were all bleeding from the iron chains. My hands were also bleeding from crawling. It was simply indescribable how miserable I was at the time. After crawling out, I wanted to shout but couldn't make a sound. At this time, the devil appeared again. Upon seeing me emergent, he was shocked and questioned whether I was a human or a spirit and how I could have gotten out. Overwhelmed, I fainted again. I didn't know how long it was before I woke up again. After waking up, this hateful devil said to me, "I admire your courage very much, and I also appreciate you very much. You are the most admirable woman I have ever met. I don't want to kill you now, but you must join us. When you were in the cellar, I and my accomplices have investigated your family thoroughly. If you don't join us or report this to the police, we will arrange for someone to deceive your loved ones and child and kill them all. You will regret this for the rest of your life." Besides, he said the police could never catch him. Moreover, he had drugs. In the end, my child and I could not escape their evil clutches. In this way, I agreed with them, hoping that they would not harm my child. Then they deceived someone into coming over. After killing them, they forced me to go down into the cellar and stab the dead body. With the behavior, it was that I participated with them in homicide and robbery. Whether I was willing or not, when my hands were dripping with blood, I could no longer report it to the police. In the process of lurking and killing people, I would let go of those I could. For those I really couldn't let go, I had no choice. Once I ran out when they were not paying attention. After they caught me, I was severely bitten and then locked in the cellar. I pushed the wall and ran out again. They caught me again and threw me into the cellar with corpses, torturing me mentally. At that time, at the face of these devils, I only had hatred, no tears. The flame of revenge occupied my mind. After that running out experience, I could only count my days and waiting for the opportunity. To ensure the safety of my family and child, I endured immense suffering in silence and did not dare report the case to the police. In this way, I was in utter despair. I begged them to honor their promise and guarantee the safety of my loved ones. Under their coercion, I sank deeper and deeper, unable to extricate myself, and killed many innocent people. This led to many families losing their husbands, sons, daughters, and mothers in misery. My heart aches as if pierced by knives. Who knows that my heart is bleeding at this moment? Although my sins are grievous, what makes me gratified is that I ended this major murder and robbery case. It was your sister, me, who voluntarily exposed it. Although I was wrong before, my heart felt a little comforted at this moment. Dear sister, I don't have many days left. My heart is full of words that I wish to share with my sisters. Life has become dark and dreary for me. I long for an ordinary life, but life has mercilessly abandoned me first and always clashes with me. Since I was a child, I lost my mother. It was my caring sister, you, who raised me into adulthood. After marriage, I experienced joy and sorrow, relishing the delights and enduring the hardships in life. Now I have been baptized by blood and fire. My wounded heart can bear no more anguish. My heart weeps in silence. I plead with God to deliver me, to grant me strength and a chance to cast all these torments into the river, to bury them in the earth, and never again remember them. Let me pass into the eternal kingdom washed clean. The letter contains a lot of expressions of repentance and emotional venting. I did not translate the full text. Judging from the translated content above, I hope at least you can understand how regretful this woman was. As she said, the past cannot be chased back, but regrets and remorse also make the living suffer. As this case occurred before the beginning of the new century, relevant information was not well preserved. After reading a lot of materials, I decided the most reliable way is to reconstruct this whole case, relying on the accounts of those who were still living. In November 1991, at Hangzhou railway station, winter had not yet come to the southern China, but there was a chill to the bone in the air. On the platform, a train bound for Nanjing had a special carriage guarded by heavily armed military police at both ends. The purpose of this trip was to escort 3 major criminals in the Nehe case back to their place of origin. They had killed more than 40 people in Nehe city. Just as the train was about to start, the female suspect suddenly knelt down in front of the Hangzhou police, who were escorting her onto the train. In the cold wind, the female suspect's body shuddered. She almost cried and begged, "Officer Huang, I don't want to go back there. Even if I died, I want to die in Hangzhou. That place is where my nightmare began." The scene of parting at the train station 28 years ago has become a picture in Huang Guo Hua's mind, and that can stand the erosion of time. The final image of that girl has since fallen into the endless darkness of space and time. Most of my life has been spent thinking about this case. I cannot let it go. I often search my heart and ask myself, for that poor girl, that girl who went astray due to cruel fate, did I try my best? If only I could have tried even harder, might I have been able to save her from the execution? I have always wanted to know if she saw her son before the execution. During the interrogation, this was one of her last wishes. At that time, my own son was about the same age as hers. I could understand a mother's most stubborn thoughts about her child. After this case, many people said that I fell in love with this woman. I don't care about such unfounded speculation. I have always been a lone ranger. Once I decided to do something, I never regretted. If it were not for his first-hand account, it would be hard to believe this case, more brutal than any movie, had actually happened. As Huang Guo Hua recalled those painful memories, the unimaginable struggles, despair, anguish, and misery were like stones dropped into the lake, creating ripples that spread in circles. Huang Guo Hua recalled, "The first time I saw her was on the 22nd of October, 1991. That morning, the chief called me and some others from the criminal investigation team to go to the Suzhou railway station police station to bring back several suspects involved in a drug and robbery case. Originally, this was supposed to be done by the criminal investigation team, but that day, the local police station came across a suspected homicide, so all members of the criminal investigation team were sent there instead. So the bureau sent me and a few others to cooperate with the Suzhou police to bring those robbers back. At that time, no one expected that behind this drug and robbery case, there was an even bigger case. No one had ever imagined that this case was enough to leave a deep mark in the field of criminal investigation across the country. At that time, the case at Suzhou railway station was quite clear. Police officers from the Suzhou railway station found 2 men and 1 woman suspicious while patrolling the station. The on-duty police officer feared causing chaos and did not expose them on the spot. Instead, they returned to the office and brought auxiliary police to surround them and take them away. During the search, more than 3,000 yuan cash, 5 out-of-town ID cards, and suspicious items such as oral sedatives were found. 3 of the suspects were incoherent and contradictory in their statements. This aroused suspicions that they might have committed a drug-induced robbery. After contacting the police and the local of the ID cards, only one person with the surname Xie from Shaoshan, Hangzhou could be reached out of the 5 ID cards. A few days ago, he was just robbed of his belongings by a group of people using the white pigeons as bait in Hangzhou, Hubin. Note, the releasing white pigeons refers to the old practice of setting up traps with female sex appeal as bait. According to the regulations, the case that occurred in that area needs to be transferred to the Hangzhou Public Security Bureau. In the early hours of the following day, the suspects who were taken out for questioning at the Suzhou Suburban Detention Center had already been transferred. All 3 suspects were identified as being from Qiqihar based on their personal information. The 2 male suspects were named Jia Wen Ge and Li Chuan, while the female suspect was named Xu Li. Huang Guo Hua continued to recall. When I first saw the suspect named Xu Li, I thought she had an ordinary appearance except for her particularly tall height. She was around 1.7 meters tall. Such height was not common among women in Jiangnan region, which is the south of China. Also, the feeling she gave me was different from other female suspects I had encountered before. On the way back to Hangzhou, she sat in the last row and I sat in the front. Sometimes when I turned to look at her, I saw her also looking at me, as if she had something to tell. I don't know why, but at that time I had a premonition that there would be some connection between me and this woman. Only I couldn't imagine that this connection would last for more than half of my life. It was already deep autumn with a strong chill in the air. Xu Li, who was still wearing only a thin coat, was shivering. People from the north were used to having heat during winter and had no idea how tough the winter in the south could be. Huang Guo Hua asked the staff at the detention center to find a blanket for her that night. The duty director, Zhao Zhenghua, reported this case and brought the travel bag carried by the suspects to his director's office. When they opened the travel bag, they found 2 other people's ID cards inside. One belonging to Zheng from a flower factory in a certain city in Jilin province, and the other belongs to Zhang from a coal mine in a place in Heilongjiang, which are basically 2 different locations that are far from Hangzhou, where they caught these criminals. After local police verified and provided feedback, the families of these 2 missing persons had reported their disappearance for a long time. Based on experience, the fact that the 2 missing persons had no connection with the suspects and that had been missing for a long time suggested a potential dangerous situation. That night, Vice Director Zhao was put in charge of forming a special investigation team with the police station's elite forces to intensify the interrogation. Huang Guo Hua was designated as the lead interrogator for the female suspect Xu Li. Huang Guo Hua remembered clearly the first interrogation of Xu Li. During that interrogation, the key details that allegedly moved the female prisoner to confess the case happened. On the 23rd of October, I went to the detention center to interrogate Xu Li. Before the interrogation, she suddenly made a request asking if I could bring her a pack of sanitary pads because she was on period. Although the request came a bit abruptly and embarrassed me, I still immediately asked my colleague to buy it. After the sanitary products were bought, we started recording. From the moment on, I clearly felt that her emotion fluctuated abnormally, and her eyes flickered uncertainly. Soon, the robbery and assault case in Hubin district was confessed. When I asked the last question as a routine, saying, "Is there anything else to confess besides this case?" an unexpected situation appeared. She said, I have a much bigger case than this one. If I tell this case, I will definitely die, and you will definitely receive a great achievement. We killed more than 20 people in the Northeast, but I hope your chief can come to see me. At that time, cases involving killing 2 people were considered major cases. A criminal gang that could kill more than 20 people without being discovered was simply unimaginable, and she didn't look like she was insane, although I was extremely shocked by what she had just revealed. Despite being skeptical, Vice Director Zhao met Xu Li with me the next day, according to her request. That morning, an astonishing case slowly emerged from the mouth of this woman in front of me. She firstly talked about how she had been living a life like a ghost over the past year and made 2 requests: to see her 3-year-old son and to not be tied up when she was executed. Xu Li confessed that she was a kindergarten teacher in Qiqihar City. In November 1990, she ran away from home after a fight with her husband and was approached by Jia Wen Ge at the train station. Jia Wen Ge deceived her into going into his house, Nehe, under the pretext of offering her a job. That night, after Jia Wen Ge raped her, he tied her hands with iron wires, strangled her, and threw her into the cellar. After seeing that she was not killed, Jia Wen Ge threatened to kill her family if she did not cooperate with him in robberies and murders. He also forced Xu Li to stab the existing corpses in the cellar and took photos to blackmail her. In order to keep her family safe under Jia Wen Ge's threats, Xu Li had no choice but to become a member of the robbery and murder gang. After that, Jia Wen Ge, together with Li Chuan, Sun Qingyuan, Li Xiaofang, Jia Wen Ge's wife, and Xu Li herself, treated single men and women at Qiqihar Railway Station, Nehe Railway Station, and other places by pretending to do business or introducing jobs. Men were robbed, then strangled to death with nylon ropes, and women were raped and killed, and their bodies were buried deep in the basement of the house. Xu Li confessed that her accomplices Sun Qingyuan and Li Xiaofang were still in the Northeast. At the same time, the confession of another robbery suspect, Li Chuan, who was detained in a different location, was basically consistent with that of Xu Li. Li Chuan also said that they killed 2 people named Zheng and Zhang, whose identities were on the 2 ID cards and the travel bags they carried. The killings took place in April and August of 1991, and their bodies were buried in the basement. At the same time, the families of missing persons identified a piece of clothing found among the belongings of this group of robbers as the one that Zhang wore before he went missing. Hangzhou police analyzed the confessions of Li Chuan and Xu Li, which were found to be very similar despite being detained in different locations, indicating that they weren't able to collude with each other in advance. On the evening of 23rd of October, the same evening that Xu Li confessed to the case, the Shangcheng District Public Security Bureau held an emergency meeting. The meeting decided on the following actions: transfer Jia Wen Ge to the Municipal Detention Center immediately to ensure his safety and prevent him from committing suicide. Intensified interrogation of Li Chuan and Xu Li by the original interrogators to gain a comprehensive understanding of the gang's criminal activities. Contact Nehe Public Security immediately to verify this case. Police officer Zhong Qing was the clerk of the Shangcheng Criminal Investigation Team at that time and participated in almost every case analysis meeting of this case. The telegram sent to Nehe was also photographed by him. Quoted, "To be honest, we didn't quite believe Xu Li's confession at first, and neither did the police station. They all said she was stimulated and schizophrenic. How could she kill so many people? It was unimaginable at the time." On the evening of the 23rd, after the bureau meeting, I didn't even have dinner and rushed to send the first telegram about this case to the Nehe County Public Security Bureau in an urgent manner. Zhong Qing had said, The content of the telegram was roughly as following. Our bureau has arrested Jia Wen Ge and others from your county. According to the confession, they rented a house in your place, killed many people, and buried them on the spot. His wife, Li Xiaofang, and Sun Qingyuan had participated in the crime together. These two above-mentioned people are still responsible for guarding the house where the corpses were buried in your place for now. Please cooperate to arrest them and contact our bureau as soon as possible. Back then, each word in telegram cost 4 cents, and they even charged you for the recipient's name and address. When the bureau's political commissar issued the telegram at that time, he was distressed that there were too many words in the telegram. After all, telegrams were really expensive at that time. Zhong Qing said, the day after the telegram was sent, it was also in the evening, the deputy bureau chief urgently called me and said that Nehe's reply telegram came. Only 3 words, no such case. That was very disappointing to me. The deputy bureau chief asked Zhong Qing to go back and resend the telegram, this time to Qiqiha's City Public Security Bureau. Well, here is some different regional divisions in China. Nehe is a county-level city, which is under Qiqihar City. Not sure if it makes sense. Nehe is a county, and it could be called as a city as well. I will call Nehe as a county in this video later to avoid confusions. After the new telegram was sent, the long-distance phone of Qiqihar City Bureau rang at the Shangcheng Sub-Bureau informing them 19 bodies have excavated at the scene. Investigation is ongoing. Jia Wen Ge's wife has committed suicide and Sun Qingyuan has been arrested. We will send a working group to Hangzhou immediately for specific stalking. The two completely different feedbacks left the Hangzhou police a bit confused. But the moment the case was confirmed, shock, horror, incredible, and other complex emotions spread in the bureau. According to Xu Li's confession, after contacting the Heilongjiang police again, it was revealed that there was another cellar beside the first one. Both cellars contained buried bodies. After the case was basically clear, Xu Li had nothing to confess and was just waiting for the people from Heilongjiang City. But Huang Guo Hua still went to see her every day, so he learned more about her. Huang Guo Hua said the following. Since she confessed to the case, the colleagues in the detention center said that Xu Li often sang songs lightly, and there was no sign of being a death row inmate. I asked her why she confessed here and not in Suzhou. Since they were caught in Suzhou, another city, obviously they were interrogated there before transfer to Hangzhou City. She said, I feel that you, Police Officer Huang, are very good to me, so I told you. In fact, buying her sanitary products and such is normal. If other suspects make similar requests, I would do the same, even though they were criminals. Their basic human rights should still be satisfied. During interrogations, Xu Li revealed that she had a bad relationship with her husband and had left home after an argument without any ideas of where to go. While wandering around the Qiqihar railway station, she was approached by Jia Wen Ge, who was looking for praise. The disoriented Xu Li followed him to Nehe. That night, Jia Wen Ge raped her and then strangled her before throwing her into the pit. However, Xu Li didn't die and remained unconscious in the pit for several days before waking up and managing to climb out on her own. Jia Wen Ge felt that this woman was unusual. If it were other women, even if they were not strangled to death, they would have been scared to death in the cellar, surrounded by corpses. At that time, Jia Wen Ge just wanted to find a female accomplice who would use sex to seduce victims. Xu Li was the best candidate. So he tied her up again, gagged her mouth, and rushed to Qiqihar to investigate her family situation. When he returned from Qiqihar, he told Xu Li that she had only 2 options. One was to cooperate with him, the other was not to cooperate with him, of course. Well, he said he would not kill her, but he would get rid of his son in front of her face. Xu Li had tried to escape several times, but each time they found her and took her back, either beating her severely or locking her in the cellar of the dead. In this way, she completely despaired and only requested that they could keep their promise not to harm her family. In the following days, she became Jia Wen Ge's accomplice, locking single men into this den of evil, sinking deeper and deeper into the path of crime. Perhaps she had suffered so much that even a single gesture like providing her with sanitary products moved her deeply. The police group from Heilongjiang was escorting them back to Nehe. The Hangzhou police detachment sent more than 10 police officers to escort the train from Hangzhou to Nanjing. The train from Hangzhou to Nehe passed through Nanjing city, so as police officers from Hangzhou, they were arranged to escort the criminals to Nanjing city and then hand over the security job to officers or authorities from other places. At that time, the Ministry of Public Security specially arranged a train carriage to strengthen the security of the escort of major criminals. Before they parted, Huang Guo Hua gave Xu Li a cotton overcoat to help her withstand the cold along the way. At that time, the case was under strict confidential, and there were no leaks from either the media or the police. Without specific information about the case, Huang Guo Hua had been worried whether Xu Li's last wishes had been fulfilled before her death. In January 1992, Xu Li was executed locally in Nehe city. At the same time, the police security department issued a commandment order, and Huang Guo Hua was credited with first-class merit. At that time, I didn't really want to go onto the stage and receive this award. Our instructor said no matter what idea I had, I still have to go and receive this award. So I went up and received it. It was a Friday night, and I was walking along on the street while cars visited by me. I felt so uncomfortable that I walked into a small barber shop and shaved my head. In the eyes of others, the first-class merit is the highest honor, but in my opinion, this is an exchange for Xu Li to repay with her life. The real criminals should be punished accordingly, but I don't think Xu Li is a thoroughly bad person. Since she lost her life, I shaved my head so that I feel more at ease. I have been religiously shaving my head every week, and this bold look will stay with me for 28 years. Over these years, I have never stopped thinking about the whole case. I also tried to find out what had happened in her that year. That was a few years later. Heard from local colleagues that when Xu Li was executed, Jia Wen Ge was fired 42 shots because there were 42 bodies dug out, which was revenge for these victims. Xu Li, on the other hand, was fired with only one bullet. Hearing this gave me the greatest comfort I had felt in years. It seems to indirectly confirm that my judgment back then was right. She was not deserved the death penalty. People often say the past will be washed away by time, but not always. Some of the past will become clearer and clearer in memory. In 2012, at the age of 46, Huang Guo Hua submitted an early retirement application report to the branch bureau. After being approved, he left Hangzhou. Huang Guo Hua was a highly respected police officer, and I have read many documents about him. However, in order to stay on track with today's main story, let's skip over him for now and talk about these admirable police officers in China another time. Now let's start again and tell the story of the real devil in the story, Jia Wen Ge. Nehe City, located in the northwest of Heilongjiang province, is the birthplace of sugar beets and potatoes in China. It is home to 24 ethnic minorities and is a city with beautiful environment and simple livelihoods. Jia Wen Ge, a native of Nehe, was born in 1965. He looked quite handsome and was a mix of Chinese and Russian descent. Due to the early death of his parents, Jia Wen Ge grew up a brooding and tormented soul from childhood. It is said that Jia Wen Ge was born intelligent and clever, with a quick wit, and he consistently ranked at the top of his class. During his school years, he served as a class monitor. It refers to the student leader elected or assigned to represent a class. The class monitor helps the teacher to manage the class, takes responsibility for certain tasks, and helps adjust students' concerns. They act as a bridge between the students and the teacher. As in China, the student and teacher rate is insane. One teacher often has to deal with 30 plus students in a class several times. However, besides his excellent grades, Jia Wen Ge had nothing else to offer. He was a troublemaker who frequently stirred up mischief, causing teachers and classmates to avoid him. After graduating from junior high school, Jia Wen Ge became an ordinary worker in a factory in Nehe City. At the time, being a blue-collar worker was a highly respected profession and considered a security job for life. He actually met his wife when he worked in the industry. However, Jia Wen Ge was incorrigible and constantly scamming to make trouble. With his handsome appearance and eloquence, Jia Wen Ge quickly captured the hearts of many young female workers. And this way, Jia Wen Ge philandered with one female worker after another, successfully engaging in improper relationships with many of them. When his supervisors discovered these affairs, they were outraged. They rebuked him several times, fired him from his position, and made him an example to deter others. After leaving the factory, Jia Wen Ge made a living as a butcher for a time. But he was lazy by nature, indulging in pleasure, and soon gave it up. Because of his lustful nature, Jia Wen Ge went whoring, even bringing prostitutes home to fool around. After spending all his money lavishly, Jia Wen Ge started doing petty theft and smuggling with his dissolute friends. At first, Jia Wen Ge only just stole chickens, ducks, cattle, sheep, furniture, and televisions to exchange for money. Later, he embarked on the path of robbery and murder. On the 12th of July 1990, Jia Wen Ge wandered aimlessly on the street and happened to meet a charming and revealing young lady. Jia Wen Ge glanced up and down at the young lady, locking his eyes on her expensive handbag, and his thievish mind gradually arose. So Jia Wen Ge lured the young lady to his home, and the two had sex with mutual consent. Afterwards, Jia Wen Ge bared his fangs and squeezed the woman's throat tightly with both hands. In a short while, the young lady was dead. At first, Jia Wen Ge's body trembled violently, seeming a little flustered. Then suddenly, he felt an unprecedented sense of comfort and ease. Jia Wen Ge searched the dead body thoroughly and took all the valuable items, then threw the corpse aside, didn't even care to bury or dispose it. However, the pleasure of killing was like an addiction, activating every cell in Jia Wen Ge's body and making him unable to stop. In his leisure moments, imagine of the gory, violent murder involuntarily flashed through his mind, and he fantasized using all manner of killing techniques. And Jia Wen Ge did put those fantasies into practice. So, using the money saved before, he rented a house in Nehe City and obtained a business license, claiming to people that it was a candy factory. Since then, the candy factory had become Jia Wen Ge's tool for deceiving people. He went to the train station to target women who appeared to be prostitutes and out-of-town women, claiming that he was a boss and his factory was hiring. Prostitutes would think he had money and would follow him for business. When women from other places heard that there were job opportunities and saw that this man had a business license and did not look like a liar, they thought they had found a good job and would take the long-distance bus with him. Jia Wen Ge deceived more than a dozen women in this way and brought them all home, raping and then killing them. His wife witnesses it all. Not only did she not call the police, but she also assisted the devil. When Jia Wen Ge killed people, she remained indifferent. The two of them continued to sleep together at nights. She was afraid that Jia Wen Ge would leave her or abandon her. She was also afraid that Jia Wen Ge would kill her, I imagine. From July to November 1990, in just 4 months, Jia Wen Ge committed 20 murders on his own. Jia Wen Ge obviously possessed all the common characteristics of serial killer: lack of sympathy and remorse, compulsory killing, predatory behavior, systematic and organized planning, and a tendency to maintain control over victims. As we had learned how he had obtained Xu Li as his accomplice, he got 2 other accomplices for his crimes as well. Sun Qingyuan was a farmer, and Li Chuan was an employee of a vegetable company. Both were characterized by their great strength, which gave them an advantage in the process of abduction and murder. In order to make the 2 men obey him willingly, Jia Wen Ge forced and seduced them to kill a person together, dismember the body with their own hands. Then they took out the heart, liver, and intestines, either fry them with oil or soak them in alcohol to drink. In this way, the 3 men used means such as seducing and deceiving victims to abduct them to their homes, plundered all the money and valuables, and finally violently tortured and killed them. For a long time, the people of Nehe felt insecure, and even merchants did not dare to step into the city. In 1991, it was a remote village where you have to get off the train, transfer to a coach. The coach would not get there. You have to transfer to a minibus or walk to the destination. At that time, there were no convenient payment methods, no mobile phones, no express deliveries. When merchants wanted to purchase goods, they had to run to the remote place of origin. Xu Li once said in interrogations, "During that time, I was miserable, living like a dog, and helped him kill more than a dozen people. Once I seduced 2 salesmen from other places, named Liu Qipeng and Wang Wenbin. Jia Wen Ge first put them down with drugs, then strangled them to death, then cut out their hearts and livers with knives, stir-fried them with green peppers, and served them with wine. Another time, we killed a farmer named Sun Chengmin. Jia Wen Ge was too pirated. He cut off his genitals, cooked it, and enjoyed them. Perhaps it was because the notoriety of dangerous Nehe had spread broadly, and no wealthy merchants were willing to pass by, making it difficult for Jia Wen Ge to hunt again. Or perhaps it was because there were too many corpses piled up in the cellar of Jia Wen Ge's house, and the stench of corpses could no longer be easily concealed. Jia Wen Ge decided to bring his criminal group to move south from northeast China to the affluent south, Hangzhou, to have some business. Hangzhou is a beautiful city and is often comparable to paradise. In a single room of a motel, a sexy and charming young woman with heavy makeup was slowly unbuttoning her clothes. A thin man on the bed could no longer restrain himself and was ready to pounce at any time. Just as this Eurasian scene was about to unfold, the woman handed the man a glass of coconut juice. Behind the crack of the closed door, 2 pairs of vicious eyes were staring at the man's reaction. The man finished the coconut juice in one gulp, turned around and pressed the woman under him, ready for a big action. He only saw that pretty woman smiling at him before passing out. There were 2 guys came out of the closet right after the man on bed lost conscious. Obviously, it was Jia Wen Ge and his folks. They took a chunk of cash out of him. Seeing the man's limp body on the bed, Jia Wen Ge showed a greedy look, took out a folding knife from his pocket, and carefully wounded the tip of the knife on the man's body. Robbing money alone is not interesting. I haven't had fun for a long time. Seeing the weapon stay on the man's heart for a few seconds, Xu Li hurriedly pulled away Jia Wen Ge's arm and coaxed, "Oh, my bro, this place is not like our hometown. There is nowhere to put the corpse afterwards. Besides, seeing blood is unlucky for our robbery business." Jia Wen Ge thought that Xu Li's words make sense, so he took away his knife. Xu Li breathed a sigh of relief on the side. Fortunately, that night there was no one losing their lives. After all, doing bad things were not her intention. If she didn't listen to Jia Wen Ge, she'd be lying in these cellars herself. Relying on Xu Li's enticement, they robbed several men after arriving to Hangzhou a few months ago. In general, with situations like such, the robbed victims often felt ashamed and would not make a fuss. However, after waking up, that thin man found that chunk of money, which was the unit's procurement funds, had disappeared. He himself couldn't afford to lose it, so he went straight to the police. At first, the Hangzhou police were helpless. Back in the years, CCTVs were not popular and there were no clues until Jia Wen Ge and others were arrested at Suzhou railway station. That day, the three of them spotted a new target and were about to take actions, but were stopped by the on-duty police at the railway station. A woman dressed in revealing clothing, followed by two men in a chaotic. The chaotic I meant is that the train station was a relatively crowded place at the time, with lots of tourists and out-of-towners coming and going. Place like the train station. They must be up to no good. Sure enough, those people's bags contained a large amount of cash, 5 other people's ID cards, many oral sedatives, and tickets to tourist attractions in Hangzhou. The Suzhou police thought that these 3 people must have committed crimes in Hangzhou. After contacting Hangzhou, it turned out to be true. I guess the narrations above isn't too descriptive enough to reveal the cruelty of Jia Wen Ge. Let's see from the description from the forensics that participated within this case in Nehe City. A total of 10 forensic doctors were involved in the exhumation of corpses at the scene, and many of them were from out of town, so the local police department rented out a motel to host them. That morning, the scene of hidden corpses that the forensics witnesses was more than horrifying and gruesome than depictions of the apocalypses in movies. The indescribable stench in the air within a radius of more than a dozen miles around the scene lasted for a long time. Masks were completely useless. The forensics had to dismantle the windows around them to vent the smell while starting to examine the scene. Originally, the cellar in Jia Wen Ge's home could hold up to 2 tons of potatoes. As soon as the cellar was opened, the corpses were already piled up to the top. It was difficult to go down further. Forensics had to go down first to tie up the corpses with ropes, and the people above pulled them up with. It wasn't an easy task. A forensic doctor attended the action record. Dozens of corpses were highly decomposed. With a light touch, it turned to a mass of sticky, greasy corpse mud, coupled with the stench of corpses. I never dared to touch stinky tofu again afterwards. Well, the stinky tofu is a type of snack in China, literally a tofu that is stinky. After a full day of working, the stench of corpses were all over them. The hosted motel simply did not allow them entering. Everyone had to go to a public shower room to take a shower before they could crash in that hotel. At that time, an inexperienced young forensic doctor, because she left home in a hurry and thought they could complete this task in 1 or 2 days, did not bring extra clothes with her and went to the scene wearing a pair of cotton shoes. As a result, the corpse mud all over the room was stuck in the shoes. It was too slippery, and she had to change to a pair of hiking boots in a hurry. During the day, they were outdoors in the cold winter, and without thick clothes, they could only rummage on the scene, regardless of whether those victims had worn them before. The average temperature in Nehe's winter is -19 Celsius degree to -8 Celsius degree. The young forensic doctor, who literally found a pink cotton jacket around her and put it on. A colleague pointed to her back. "Look, there is a cut behind this coat." Although she felt awkward, there was nothing else she could do. She didn't want to get freeze. It affected her work. In this way, corpse after corpse was moved out from the cellar. Some of them even had to run a lap in the yard after handling each corpse to get some fresh air. At that time, Yu Wenjun, a forensic doctor from the Nehe County Bureau, fainted in the cellar due to long hours of working and was sent to the hospital for emergency treatment by his colleagues. After those corpses and human remains were removed, all the forensic entered the dissection stage. The dissection site was in Jia Wen Ge's yard. There was no dissection table, so a temporary table was made with wooden boards, and 2 people in a group to examine the bodies. At that time, the outer temperature was below -10°C already. The forensics hands were so cold that they couldn't even hold the dissecting knives. Wearing thin latex gloves, their fingers were stiff. They had to boil one basin after another of hot water, put their hands in the water from time to time to warm up for a while, and then continue the dissection. According to the procedures for forensic identification of corpses, the forensic doctors needed to use tools to detach the tendons from the skull and then boil the skull in a large iron pot. It was a rather terrifying scene with 5 or 6 large iron pots steaming and boiling human skulls in the yard. The operations were usually the routine procedures for them, but only for 1 or 2 corpses, and most were done indoors. But this crime scene in Nehe was so special that such a large amount of autopsy work could only be carried out by setting up a makeshift morgue outdoor on site. The extremely cold weather combined with the strong stench of corpses caused many forensic doctors to collapse and unable to withstand it. Several forensic doctors even suffered from severe
pneumonia.
From a whole week, the forensics worked from 9 a.m. to dark every day. Every night, the house filled with forensics will analyze and determine how to construct the corpses while receiving IV fluids. Finally, the physical characteristics of 41 corpses were arranged in sequence. Then, according to missing persons reported nationwide at around the time, the whereabouts of more than 20 missing persons were clarified. It was very limited at that time. If today's DNA checks were used, the bodies could be identified much quickly. But back in 1991, forensic doctors could only use the corpse fragments to determine which parts belonged to which body. The young forensic doctor was awarded a third-class merit for the case. For her, who had just started working, it was the greatest honor. The experience in this battle was allowed her to experience the cruelty of crime earlier than her peers. She mentioned that forensic doctor Yu Wenjun, who fainted at the scene that year, had already retired from the Public Security Bureau. It was said that he was suffering from Parkinson's. When he recorded this particular case, he said the following: "Retrieving corpses from a large vegetable cellar was not too difficult. The real challenge was to retrieve corpses from the small pit 6 meters deep, 1 meter long, and only 55 centimeters wide. Jia Wen Ge was very clear. When the corpses in the vegetable cellars could no longer be piled up, he dug a hole 50 centimeters away from the vegetable cellar. Then he threw the corpses into the pit through that hole. At that time, many colleagues went down to retrieve corpses, but I was down there the most. First, because I was small in stature and could squeeze into that small pit. Secondly, I thought this incident happened in Nehe as a forensic from here. I had the responsibility to do more and take on more dangerous work. The stench at the scene was indescribable. Wearing a white coat, I went down time and time again. After moving the corpses from the large vegetable cellar, I began to crawl into the small pit. That small pit was like a semi-closed gasoline barrel. I was stuck in that small pit with extremely cramped space. The stench of corpses and rotting limbs surrounded me. When I pushed the corpses, bursts of white smoke rushed up immediately. At first, I was wearing an anti-gas mask with activated carbon, but later found that the activated carbon was completely useless. So I simply just took it off and did not wear anything. I breathed the stench of corpses while working. Working and working. I suddenly lost control of urination, defecation, had difficulty breathing, and suddenly lost consciousness and fainted in the pit. Forensic doctor Jia Wen Ge learned later that when he was carried into the county hospital for emergency treatment, doctors and nurses who had worked with him before were nauseous and vomiting unceasingly because of the smell on him. Then everyone went out to vomit and came back to continue the emergency treatment. After being treated for a whole day and night, Forensic Yu finally woke up. The second day after waking up, he insisted on rushing back to the scene with only one thought in his mind: to finish this task as soon as possible. Colleagues were afraid of him suffering a relapse, so they tried various ways to detoxify him, using fans to blow on him and pounding him with oxygen tanks, but nothing worked. There is the term postmortem toxins. It refers to the general term used to describe various toxic substances produced in corpses after death. It can be said that Forensic Yu spent the second half of his life experiencing it. After a person dies, the corpse become an ideal breeding ground for bacteria to culture. People in contact with decaying corpses are easily infected. The infectivity of this bacterial complexion is very strong and can spread from the skin tissue to the whole body at once. For ordinary murder scenes, the time spent at the scene is relatively short and the difficulty is not too great. Examiners can gradually recover after taking a few days off, facing those toxins from the corpse. However, in this case, the duration at the scene and the harsh environment were unprecedented. In addition, after Forensic Yu fainted and was rescued by the hospital, he returned to the scene and continued to work, causing irreversible devastation to his body. Exposure to a large amount of corpse toxins caused irreparable harm to his central nervous system, and the after effects were quite apparent. For a long time afterwards, Forensic Yu could feel that the breath exhaled from his nose carried these stenches. He found that his lungs were also eroded by the corpses. After that, he often fainted for no reason. At first, it was thought to be blood sugar crash, and drinking some sugar water after the illness was enough to get by. But his body deteriorated day by day. In 2012, he showed symptoms of Parkinson's, a neurological disease. Up to now, he has been maintaining himself with imported medicines every month. Needless to say, everyone involved in this case, from the victim to the police officers to the forensic doctors, was profoundly affected by it. This lengthy case was exhausted me, both physically and psychologically. So let's end the story of today's case here. If you like my videos, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. My throat is too painful by simply just telling the story, and I am still on holiday, even though it could be my last day of holiday. But still, if you were on holiday, take a good one. Enjoy yourself. If you're not, well, you can still enjoy your days and nights, of course. Too much to talk now. Let's see you in the next one.